So here you can see the imported file. You can notice some different things, like, for example, here there are several faces, more faces than needed on the part and such. And to simplify some of the geometry on this file, we can use the dm simplify command for the entire model. And you will see that the geometry and topology has been simplified, and now this is one solid surface reaching from this fillet around to the other fillets, just to show you that it actually did something. Now, this is just an imported simple collection of different solids, and I want to then later constrain it back together. So I will then manually just move these different things around with either the move commands like we used earlier, or with the manipulator by clicking and holding a little bit longer than normal. And after doing this, we want to place some constraints and possibly change the colors so that we can identify them a bit easier. So now we can easily visualize how many different parts are in here. Also, I would like to form them as different components, but first, to more easily visualize it still, I can change the colors of these different things, for example, to black on the bottom one, for example, pink here, green on the hands, or green on this one, I mean, like it is in the handouts. Yellow on this one. This one is blue, and so on. And now I can use the command dm form to classify these different parts as components. I can type this in the bm form command, and from here I can select what part I want to form. I can select this one, hit enter, and I can then form it as a local component in the command line dialog. I can simply select it, or I can type L. I will just hit enter to select the default insertion point, and I can name it base, and you will see it appear in the mechanical browser. I will do the same for the other parts, just repeating it with local parts and calling this one shoulder, or that should be platform actually. And for the remaining parts as well. And as I'm doing this, you will be able to see that the mechanical browser is being filled up with parts and components. And these we will then later work on putting together. It is fairly straightforward, and it is not too difficult to do this. So it is just meant as volume training, as I mentioned earlier, to get you used to working with the different constraints and forming components and creating an assembly structure. Now that we have classified everything, we can see the different parts in the mechanical browser. And from here, we can then apply the, for example, dm fix to the base platform. and you can see it appear in the mechanical browser. We can create a concentric constraint between this face here and this circular face, so they share the same center, and place a coincident constraint between the surfaces, similarly to the engine block. And you will be able to use the concentric and coincident constraints on the other parts of the assembly as well. Now we are basically just reassembling the same part that we imported, but of course now it will all be attached instead of being separated. As you can see, you have to be a little bit strategic maybe with where you place the different constraints, but it should be easy enough to figure out or to see where you can apply the constraints. The concentric constraint should of course be applied on circular surfaces, and the coincident should be placed on flat surfaces. Such as this. And now you can see we have a collection of different constraints in the mechanical browser. If I try to rotate this part, then we should see that the other parts rotate with it as well. So that means that my assembly is attached together. We can also choose to insert more parts onto this assembly. You will find that here. So I will open or select the insert component option, find my Brixis partner area. I will have to go to there. Find my saved location of the folder, and through the folder system. And here I can insert a car door, for example. This has this conveniently placed hole here, so it is more easy to insert it to the assembly. I can apply another concentric constraint and a coincident constraint on this. As such. Now, let's say I want to modify the hand of this assembly a little bit. I can then go to the hand in the mechanical browser. I listed it as a local component earlier, but I will switch it to external by selecting it and right-clicking it. By switching it to external, I can choose where I want to save it. I will save it just on my desktop, for example. And then I can open this external reference. I can then make any modifications I want. For example, extrude this part a little bit further. I can then save this part again, similarly to what was done in the engine assembly. I can then update my assembly here, and you can see the arm is updated to account for the changes I made in the part. So then you can also try to move around this door, for example, and see how your assembly will move and adjust to the different constraints that you placed and such.